This is the Afghan exit plan, which the Biden administration shelved. Now, you know how we talk about a lot how there's always a follow-up, to whatever talking point dies the week before. So, you know, at one point it's woke and all that, and the horror of woke, and it trickles down. You could tell when any of the phrases that they're road testing, you could tell when they jump the shark when Trump starts saying them. That's how they've gotten all the way to the top, and they're like, okay, next one. He said it, we'll just set up another one, let it build up, and he says it, and then we start again. And in this particular case, it's the argument, and we saw a little bit of this with Diamond and Silk, talking about how there's a, there was a plan in place, and they threw it out. This is, I hope there's a bit more of a deep dive in this, on that plan, but I have a feeling it's the exact same talking point. Let's find out.
Perhaps over 10,000.
Hold on one second.
There are thousands, perhaps over 10,000. Some estimate somewhere between 10 and 15,000 Americans still in Afghanistan.
Okay, somewhere between 10 and 15,000. This is from yesterday. No, this is from day before yesterday. So somewhere between 10 and 15,000 Americans still in Afghanistan. So let's see. Afghanistan evac numbers. Shall we just see what's there's an Al Jazeera number, since he won't trust anybody else. Let's see. So somewhere like that. Okay. A week after the Taliban takeover, at least 28,000 people have been evacuated from Afghanistan, but tens of thousands more are still waiting. Okay, dismiss. Thousands of people have tried to flee. Okay, this isn't Americans. This is going to be just anybody who wants to get out. So let's take a look at, let's see, Kabul evacuation numbers to fluctuate, Biden says. Number of people evacuated from Kabul will change from day to day, in terms of who they get out, number per day, as opposed to the number overall. Said in a televised address on Sunday, depending on the specific conditions and safety of the day. Earlier Sunday, the White House said U.S. had evacuated 7,800 people from Kabul in the previous 24 hours. Later Sunday evening, the White House added another 5,100 to the day's total evacuees. In all, the U.S. has evacuated 30,300 people in the past week, a White House official said. Since the end of July, about 35,500 people have been evacuated from Kabul. Tens of thousands more await a ride out of Kabul. Any American who wants to go home will get home. We're also moving to work our Afghan allies and other vulnerable Afghans work to get our other vulnerable Afghans out of the country. Biden said none of the planes from Kabul were flying straight to the United States. Instead, he said all flights first land in military bases in a handful of countries where non-U.S. citizens will undergo background checks and security screenings. American officials are confronting what Secretary Anthony Blinken described as an incredibly volatile situation at the airport after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan a week ago. So in a week since the Taliban took over, 30,000 people, 35,000, including everybody they got out beforehand, which, by the way, the removal of those people was part of the reason why the Taliban went, oh, they're actually leaving, and started moving across the country, because the May 1st deadline had been set.
Think about this. Think about the...
I am thinking about it. I'm thinking you're a dumbass, and you're talking out of your ass, and you don't know what's going on, and you're making up numbers to make America look bad, and yet you think that's patriotism.
Scandal of this. Think about the fact that we made a pullout. Biden did.
We didn't pull out.
Administration did.
I mean, the number of George Carlin quotes that must be flooding to the front of people's heads right now must be extraordinary.
Leaving all those guys behind. And now...
Leaving all those guys behind. So the idea is we left soldiers behind on the battlefield. Most of them, just laying in the desert with a leg blown off. We don't care. That's the image Dinesh D'Souza wants to evoke.
Much weaker position. Being out of the country with the Taliban in control, we have to figure out how to get them out.
Get the people out. I see. We are doing that. 30,000 in a week. That's a pretty strong number. I'm just saying.
And the lackadaisical approach of Biden, by the way.
Yeah. I thought it was wrong of him to whistle during his address. and play with a balloon. It was just an optics problem.
Contrast with the British and the French. In fact, they can hardly believe. Normally, the Americans are the best and the first to get Americans out. The British and the French are extracting their citizens, sometimes by sending in paratroopers. They're doing everything they can. We are not doing everything we can. In fact,
well, if we did everything we could, it would mean blowing up entire cities, one would think. We are not nuking any of the cities. This is true.
Outrageously, the State Department was initially, they've now changed it, but they were initially going to charge Americans who boarded vehicles and were taken out of the country, charge them airfare, $2,000 each. And it was only when it was reported that they were like, oh, you know, the optics.
Well, sorry, was that in the deal that Trump struck, right?
This is not too good. We may want to not charge them after all. But
again, where the fuck does that come from? Let's see. Americans charged $2,000 to leave Afghanistan. This is Outkick. U.S. government charged. Let's see. View from the wing. U.S. government, and these are all State Department scraps. Okay. Bill Kabul evacuees. Washington State Department was forced to scrap a widely excoriated plan to bill U.S. citizens $2,000 or more for their evacuation flights from Kabul. The hefty price tag drew social media outrage Thursday after it gained public notice. In these unique circumstances, we have no intention of seeking any reimbursement from those fleeing Afghanistan, State Department Ned Price said in a statement provided to the Post. The cost was publicly posted to a State Department website on Saturday, but went largely unnoticed before it was highlighted by Politico's military-focused newsletter. An unnamed State Department spokesman initially stood by the charge, telling Politico that U.S. law requires that evacuation assistance to private U.S. citizens or third country nationals be provided on a reimbursable basis to the maximum extent practicable. Okay, so hold on. This is where it gets a little foggy. To private U.S. citizens, people who are living in Afghanistan and doing business there. Again, we are now, and I'm sure Dinesh D'Souza will be happy to find out, flying people who were involved in the opium trade out of the country for free because they have an American passport, which I think is great. And then, of course, here it is, third country nationals be provided on a reimbursable basis to the maximum extent practicable. But the cost drew widespread condemnation. New York Republican Rep. Claudia Tenney threatened legislation to prohibit the fees shortly before the State Department changed its stance. Biden created the crisis. Now he wants to charge Americans who are desperately fleeing the Taliban. That's wrong. In one widely circulated tweet, the Heritage Foundation communications director wrote, "Oh, you'd like to escape the Taliban? That'll be 1 month's rent, please." The original plan to bail passengers was published by the State Department's Overseas Security Advisory on August 14th. An advisory said U.S. lawful permanent residents may submit a repatriation assistance request, and the request will be considered depending on availability. These are people who are living there, not serving there. These are people who are in Afghanistan, running a business, living, but not serving on the taxpayer dime. The advisor said repatriation flights are not free, who, by the way, also knew we were leaving. The advisor said repatriation flights are not free and passengers will be required to sign a promissory loan agreement and may not be eligible to renew their U.S. passports until the loan is repaid. The cost will be may be $2,000 or more per person. Some civilian flights remain available out of Afghanistan. Air India has pledged to continue operations. One-way direct flights to Delhi are available for Sunday for $147. Oops, something went wrong. The flight date. Okay, let's see. Let's try. It's $134 to fly from Kabul to New Delhi. I gotta say, to leave what's effectively a war zone, that's pretty solid. That's a decent price. I'm just gonna say that that shocks me. The flight is $134 to get out of Kabul. But yeah, here we go. You can fly to New Delhi for $134, or you can get on an evacuation flight that we're using to get out our Afghan allies and our personnel for $2,000. It sounds like they're pricing you out of annoying the service people. Why would you? Okay, we'll see. I'm curious about this chat room. Kabul to Honolulu flights are being canceled. They are. Well, I think that's for weather. I think that's weather, honestly.
Because they didn't think it was right. They thought it was right to charge them. They just didn't think it was right that it was disclosed.
Well, no, they actually walked it back after they got some political pushback, but it's weird that it's $134 to fly commercial out of there, but you want the taxpayer to fly soldiers in and C-17s and fly people out in mass who aren't the special immigrant visa folks, who aren't military personnel, who aren't embassy personnel, who are just private American citizens who've been living and working in Afghanistan, who want to flight out of the place and are leaving, but all right. So $8,000 to fly your family to a third country before you come home. These people already have passports, so they don't need to go to Qatar or any place to get vetted. Yeah.
Now, there's a remarkable article here in the National Pulse. I want to credit the writer, Rahim Kassam. And it says that the Trump administration in the State Department had an evacuation plan.
Awesome. And they didn't use it? Why didn't they use it? They had a plan. What was missing? Oh, implementing it.
Or at least an evacuation plan for civilians.
Yeah, not everybody else. I mean, it's just a civilian evacuation plan, but that's, yeah.
A specialized plan that is supervised by a team that knows how to do these extractions.
Sure, yeah, an amazing plan that was never used, and so therefore would have worked perfectly.
This is a team. It's called the
Yes, that's the pricing for real, Tracy. I just looked that up because of the link from that article.
And crisis response team. This is a team that has a lot of experience in this area.
But apparently have lost that experience in the last couple of weeks. Is that what the case?
Because whenever there are crises around the world, let's just say, for example, civil war breaks out in Burundi or breaks out...
Or Afghanistan, one would think.
Somalia, but there are Americans there. How do you get them out? This is a team that specializes in doing that. They...
Yeah, and do they always so basically how it works, what does it work? They just pull a boat right up to the shore, dump a bunch of tanks, the tanks roll through everybody, Marines jump out, they extract everybody at gunpoint, get them into the tanks and the personnel carriers and take them back, killing as many bad guys as possible. And they also flick a cigar at a line of gasoline that blows up a truck as they walk away with it blowing up in the back. Is that how it works each time? That's what I mean. I just want to know if Chuck Norris is always there or whether I should wait for another opportunity to get an autograph.
Medical personnel, they have military personnel. They're experts at this. In fact, they have done it on multiple occasions. Now,
yeah, but they weren't asked to do this one. Wonder why.
Apparently, Biden and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the State Department decided, let's terminate this program. Or at least let's terminate its plan in relation to Afghanistan. We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care if stuff on the ground changes, but that shouldn't matter. These guys wanted to keep with the plan, even if the Taliban had taken over the country way faster than everybody else thought.
Apparently, the termination was signed last month in June, 2 months ago, but it was approved in February. So the reason I think here is the Biden people come in, they go, everything.
They look at May 2nd, and they go, oh shit, the Taliban's moving across the country. They're taking a lot more territory. These soldiers are laying down their weapons. The Afghan military forces aren't fighting, and everything points to the government collapsing. So our original plan for slow walking everyone out isn't going to work.
It is wrong. And so...
Yeah, I think it's a sign of a bad leader to change what they're doing based on reality. I wish we'd put an end to that.
This was a Trump evacuation plan.
Okay, so that's why it sucked. Did Stephen Miller sign off on it? What was the actual plan? Please get to the actual plan. Let's hear it.
Just shelve it. And so they did.
It was shelved.
And Trump himself, by the way, issued a statement.
So wait a minute. It was approved in February, but it was a Trump plan. but they just shelved it because it was a Trump plan. Well, then why did they approve it in February if it was a Trump plan?
Recently, I'm going to read a sentence or two.
Yeah, not too much.
He goes, canceling the successful Trump administration.
Oh, I see. You're reading Trump's statement, not actually stuff from the Trump plan. That seems odd.
Program before the withdrawal that would have helped tens of thousands of Americans reach home is beyond disgraceful. Our withdrawal was...
Well, if it would have, I think is the assumption you're making. I'm not so sure it would have.
Missions-based and perfect. Well, it's probably a little Trumpian exaggeration here.
A little.
Perfect. But nevertheless, it would have been flawlessly executed, very Trumpian, and nobody would have even known we left. So...
Yeah, that's the chances of that work. If the whole plan was based on no one would have noticed the people had left, then I have a question, and I work with me on this one. Why the fuck were those people there in the first place? If you have people in a country like Afghanistan working at the embassy, working with the government, working with the military, and if they disappeared, no one would notice, what the fuck are they doing in the country? Why are they there? Why are we paying the... All right.
Trump is saying, yeah, we would have done it, but Trump is also saying very clearly, by the way, that I would have done it very differently than Biden did it.
Well, he wouldn't have done it at all. He would have punted. Sebastian Gorka already told us that Trump would have pushed it till the winter at least, and that would have meant pushing it into the next year and the year after that, and it would have been a replay of the last 4 years where he could have gotten us out, but chose not to for some reason.
After all, was like, well, I'm not doing any different than Trump. He wanted to get out. I want to get out. So implying that...
Well, no, we are absolutely adding time to get the special immigrant visa folks out, which he did no planning for.
The only way to get out. Now, here's the point.
Yeah, okay, good. Get to it. Let's see it. Here's the point. We're almost there.
How many Americans are we going to leave behind in Afghanistan?
None, unless they don't want to leave.
Some people have compared Afghanistan to Saigon.
Right. How many Americans did we leave in Saigon?
Airlift, the kind of humiliating airlift following defeat out of that country. But in some ways, if we leave behind, let's say we have 10,000 Americans in Afghanistan. Let's say we even get, which is ambitious, 9,000 of them out. We leave 1,000 behind.
Yeah, in general. Just make up a number. Why not?
Americans. I ask you, how many live Americans?
Sir, I appreciate your argument, but all I need are some bowling shoes. I don't know why you're going on about this. Yeah. 10, 9.5, because I like them to ride tight. You know what I'm saying? Shirt is amazing.
Were left after Vietnam, in Vietnam. Answer, 0. None. Every single American was gotten out. Now, of course, there was a later effort to recover bodies and so on. That's a whole different...
Yeah. I mean, not all of those bodies were dead when we left, but...
I'm talking about getting Americans and American civilians out of the country.
Uh-huh.
So, in that sense, I could say that what's happened in Kabul...
I mean, in that sense, you could say anything. You could just make up a number and go, that's horrible. Imagine if we just left. Imagine if we took busloads of children and dumped them in Kabul, wearing, especially all girls. How terrible would that be? Would that be something you would want? Would you support that if Biden did it? Well, Biden's not doing anything to stop it from happening. Biden is not stopping anyone from airlifting school buses into, there's no way it could happen, but that's not the point.
Happened in Afghanistan under Biden is worse than what happened in Saigon, at least as far as the evacuation is concerned.
Yeah? Yeah? Are we negotiating with the Taliban to get bodies out?
This is something for which a lot of people have a lot of answering to do. And I think the Republicans have been too timid so far in not jumping out front, demanding hearings.
Well, yeah, in fairness to them, they've been signing off on the Afghanistan war for 20 years. So it's a little hard. It's a little politically difficult to bitch about us getting out when you were the one who signed off on us staying. When the guy who was against the surge, who said we should have gotten out a long time ago and was overruled, finally gets in office and went, fuck this, we're gone. It's a little hard for all the people who were, you know, we should get out, but also, but we should, but we'll stay, but it's a little, you can understand why they're doing a little bit of juggling.
I think you need to see impeachment resolutions. We need to up the ante on Biden.
Yeah, do it. Just crank it up. Yes, impeach him for getting us out of Afghanistan. While you're at it, why don't you impeach him for getting an infrastructure bill passed? I tell you, we should just name all of the bridges that are made Impeachment Bridge. What kind of motorcycle do you ride? I have a Honda Fury. It's pretty awesome.
By the way, the corollary benefit of this is this will not just stop Biden on his tracks in foreign policy. It will probably undermine, weaken, and
the infrastructure of the United States of America. It will stop all the natural workings of government, keep things that are good for the country from actually happening, that kind of stuff. Like all that money that he used from the Rescue Act to get to police departments and stuff, that would stop, probably. Would you be for that, Dinesh?
Less likely the passage of many of his domestic policy initiatives as well.
I would, just 2 words, Dinesh. You wish. I don't know why, I have to say, any of these people think they're actually getting away with any of this bullshit. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff about Afghanistan from the left side of the aisle that says the exact same thing, short of the kind of, fantasy impeachment bullshit, saying the exact same thing about Biden getting out of Afghanistan. Same thing. I mean, the talking points are unanimous across the board.